Sorry for the delay. Good evening. This is Chuck Hornbrook, and I'd like to call the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Commission meeting for March 17th, 2025 to order. David, can you take roll, please? You got it.
Chair Hornbrook, Vice Chair Moon, Commissioner Judge,
Present.
and Commissioner Ghaffari. And Commissioner Burr is absent this evening.
Thank you. Terrific. As part of oral are there any oral communications? Is that, you want me to?
Yeah, oral communicate if there's anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anybody here who would like to communicate anything to the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Commission? It is not on tonight's agenda. I see none. Is there anybody online?
I see none.
Terrific. Thank you. As part of commission and staff briefings, what I'd like to do is actually just take a moment we have a new Parks, Open Space, and Trails Commissioner, Mike Ghaffari. Mike, do you want to just say hello and talk about your excitement of being here? Or maybe
Thank
not.
you. I am very excited to be here. I'm Mike Ghaffari. I'm the newest Parks Commissioner. I've lived in Tiburon for 5 years, but I first discovered it 20 years ago, probably in large part because of the parks. Starting with the bike and multi-use path that we all know and love, and riding my bike here, hiking here, and then now with a family, really getting to know all the different parks in the neighborhoods and all our friends through the school. So I think Tiburon's been blessed with a lot of natural beauty and a lot of great things we can do with the parks, and I'm excited that we've got the master plan that's really spelled out a lot of the future of what we can do, and I'm excited to execute.
Thank you.
Thanks
for
guys.
being here. Terrific. Anything else, David? Do you have any staff briefings?
Staff briefings, nothing in particular, but I'll be able to add once we get into some of these action items. Some of the stuff just happened.
And for just to make sure on the presentation items, is that person going to be remote or here?
On Zoom, remote.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I just want to make sure in case I need to slow roll anything. All right. With that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the minutes, which only three of us can vote on because we were only here for the January 29th, 2025. I pulled them up and I reviewed them in advance. Anybody have any questions or changes? If not, I'll just need a motion to pass the minutes and then a second.
I'd like to move to pass the minutes from the prior meeting, January 29th.
Terrific. Thank you. Can you take a roll?
Chair Hornbrook,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moon,
Yes.
Commissioner Judge.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Terrific. As we move forward. Tonight we have a presentation item, which is very exciting for us from the Tiburon Police Department. They will be providing an update on safety and speed on the old rail trail for the reason why Mike was so drawn here, and many of us have been drawn here in our earlier lives. So with that, looks like we have a member of the TPD online.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this evening we have Captain Yee online here, Jared Yee, with the Tiburon Police Department, and he'll be giving a presentation on Tiburon Police Department's efforts on safety and speed control along the old rail trail, and then we'll be able to answer any questions that the commission has and the public as well. So with that being said, Captain Yee, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. I just want to make sure my microphone works, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm here tonight to provide an update on safety and speed concerns relating to not only the old rail trail, but throughout town. So in terms of enforcement, we are making every effort to patrol the old rail trail when staffing permits. We understand the importance of having a visible police presence to deter violations and address any issues that arise. And I must acknowledge that due to the demands of our department, we're not able to staff the trail full time. With that said, we do have an overtime budget that we use strategically to deploy officers to the trail when possible. That assures that we can provide the visibility and enforce the rules, even if we can't be there continuously. We have been working with Public Works to ensure that speed limit signs are posted on the trail. And while enforcement stops are still being made, we have not issued any citations for violations on the Old Rail Trail yet. We recently received our administrative citations. They were just printed, and that allows us, that gives us the tools now to take necessary enforcement action if needed. The Tiburon Police Department has also been working with the Mill Valley Police Department to form an educational class for youth that receive citations related to any e-bike violations. To date, we are proud to report that there have been no recent collisions on the Old Rail Trail, which I believe speaks to the generally safe environment on the trail. And there also have been minimal collisions involving bicyclists in the last 12 months on town streets. And lastly, our calls for service remain very low relating to bicycle activity throughout town and on the trail.
Thank you. I just want to understand that you said that there's been no bicycle collisions with bikes and cars on the town streets in the past year.
No, I was saying on the trail, we haven't had any collisions there in the last year. I don't have the stats in front of me. I can only think of off the top of my mind, two collisions that have occurred on town highways in the last 12 months. Right. And I don't believe one was a solo bicyclist. So we still enjoy a very low collision rate involving bicyclists and vehicles in town.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question? So what is the procedure for, what's your understanding of the e-bike rules? And what would you be looking out for now going forward once we have the citations for e-bike citations for someone who's not following?
Well, I will say that it seems like every time I check the vehicle code, that laws are changing, especially with e-bikes. They're changing so much, it's actually a little difficult to keep up with. But what makes it even more difficult is we have the California Vehicle Code, which applies, but we also have, the town municipal codes. So if we were to make a stop and cite someone for a vehicle code violation, that would mean that they violated a state statute, whereas the municipal code is obviously a town ordinance. However, both of those are written on different citations. So if they were cited for a vehicle code violation, they'd be sent to the Superior Court. Depending on the age of the violator, if we did cite them for a municipal code violation, it would be handled through Town Hall and or in partnership with the Mill Valley Police Department for the new educational class that we have. So it really depends on what the violation is. And we're also looking into a written warning process, which is something that we'd be able to utilize. And let's say we stop someone and we check our records and they've already had 2 warnings. Well, that would likely dictate that they would receive a stiffer punishment, such as a citation on the next offense. So in regards to the bicyclists, some of the things that we're looking for out there, when we're talking about speeding violations, we also need to see how it's affecting the other people that are on the trail. Generally, for a speed violation to occur, if it is above the posted speed limit, that's one thing, but also what allows us to issue a citation or at least take enforcement effort is if the bicyclist is traveling at a speed that is greater than reasonable or prudent. So let's say they are traveling 10 miles an hour and right now the speed limit is 15. That may not be a violation, but it could be a violation if the trail was packed with people, because it wouldn't be safe to travel at 10 miles per hour. So a lot of that is dependent on the overall pedestrian traffic, vehicle traffic, other bicyclists, and weather. So there's a variety of things that we're looking into when we are determining if there is a violation. And lastly, we are, especially with the e-bikes, I'm definitely becoming very familiar with a lot of the brands. But we are looking for certain things out there. I was just on the bike trail a couple of weeks ago and I saw a Super 73 go past me, and I've definitely learned a lot about those bikes lately. So we are looking for other opportunities to address violations, and I'll add this in there. I was talking to a kid recently on the trail who said his parents were buying him the Super 73. Gave him my business card, and I ended up reaching out to the school. So we are working to address the violations even before they happen.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, the RUSD has put out guidance that Super 73s are not allowed on campus. And so I think everything we can do to educate the community, parents not to buy those and similar bikes, which basically throttle e-bikes, I think, that most people have now concluded are not really appropriate for unlicensed drivers to de facto basically have a motorcycle on the
Correct.
bike path, no less.
Correct. Unfortunately, like I said, I did see one without being able to make a stop. I couldn't determine exactly what model it was, but
Sure.
from what I'm hearing from the schools, I've noticed the calls have gone down with e-bikes. We did have a couple calls initially when that was implemented that hey, there's a e-bike on campus that we believe is a motorcycle, but I haven't heard any of those calls recently.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Joe, Mike. I have a couple other questions.
Go for it.
So a couple other questions. You had mentioned about speed so currently the speed limit on the Old Rail Trail is 15 miles per hour. And then a number of years, actually, we updated the ordinance that it says unless you're near people, that it's actually 8 miles per hour. And I would just like your feedback or thoughts on the Mill Valley Trail, basically by their parks and by their middle school, it's actually 10 miles per hour for an entire section. Would it be easier and safer if our speed limit was 10 miles per hour versus 15 regarding all bicycles at all times?
It could, and speaking on behalf of Chief Gene, we'd like to emphasize we're not opposed to reducing the speed limit. However, we want to make sure and ensure that any changes that are made are consistent with the policies of neighboring municipalities and bordering cities. And ultimately, from the police department standpoint, we aim to maintain a balanced approach that reflects the safety needs of the Tiburon community while aligning with the other local and regional standards. To answer your question, I do believe it would probably be safer if it was 10 miles per hour, but a lot of that, like I was saying, I believe really plays into the conditions at the scene. If there's nobody else around, we could say light traffic, I would say 15 miles per hour could be safe. However, it depends on the conditions out there. But overall, with the 10 mile per hour speed limit, I do think that would make things safer.
Just in your role, does it make it, and you kind of alluded to it as the differences, and is it harder from your role to subjectively state about number of people on trails, and you just stated like, well, if it's, I mean, and I'll, for the record, I rode on the Old Rail Trail into the Paradise Loop at least 200 to 300 times as a 20 and 30-year-old coming from San Francisco. So, and I've ridden on that at different speeds. So I get it when there's nobody on it going very fast. However, is it difficult for an officer to make a determination if there's lots of people there that it should be slower versus just stating that it just should be slow?
Well, generally when an officer issues a citation, the burden of proof is on them. So if the citation was contested, whether it's a vehicle code violation or a municipal code, the officer would have to provide enough facts and information to support why that speed was greater than reasonable or prudent. So, it's just kind of like when you're driving a car, you can get a speeding ticket for driving 15 in a 25. It just really depends on what the officer is determining the safe speed is. And, generally speed is not the easiest thing to enforce in California when we're talking at least about the vehicle code. But there are other factors that would come into play likely when a enforcement stop would be made for speed.
Great, thank you. And yes, having done a 180 on Highway 89 up in Tahoe City once, I was maybe going faster than the conditions. So, and CHP, see, the guy said that. He's like, are you sure you were going slower? And I was like, yeah, sure. But yes, understood. Thank you so much. I appreciate that and the difficulty of that as well. I'm kind of slow road. Any other questions?
I got a follow-up question.
right.
So you mentioned that you wanted Tiburon to be consistent with our neighbors and the region. Do you know what the speed limit is for e-bikes in Mill Valley and some of the other cities in Marin?
I do not. Chief Gene has been speaking with the Mill Valley Police Department about their speeds that are set. However, some of what I'm learning is it's not all within the jurisdiction of the Mill Valley Police Department. So that makes it a little difficult to find out all the speed limits without talking to all the agencies. But to answer your question, I have not spoken with the Central Marin Police Authority or any of our neighboring agencies to determine speed limits.
I think Tim and I, when we were doing the research around the speed limits for Old Rail Trail, we were looking at neighboring towns, and I think they just don't distinguish between type of bike on trail. It's like all things, it's sort of abide by the same speed limit. And if they're on the trail, so it could be a bike, it could be a scooter, it could be an e-bike, doesn't matter. It's, whatever that, and I can't remember what the speed limit is, but I can probably find it in my notes. And then likewise on the street.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I just ask, just for basic nuts and bolts, what's a good metric? For example, is there a number of hours per week that there's an officer on the bike path, monitoring, or?
For a while, it was probably at least 8 hours a week. We had an officer there for the entire time. Like I said, we do have an overtime budget. However, as we're winding down towards the end of the fiscal year, that budget is slowly getting smaller. However, during our patrol shifts, the officers do make what we call passing calls on there, and any calls for service that brings them to that area, they will also drive on the bike path. For example, we had a call for service about a vehicle driving on the bike path, and the officer located it. It actually had the right to be there. However, as they were leaving the call, they continued to patrol the bike path for a distance. So even if we don't have an officer staffing the ORT overtime, they are out there. It just really depends on call volume. And it also depends on our staffing. On a good day, we have 3 to 4 people working a shift. However, our minimal staffing can sometimes only be 1 to 2 people. So you're not going to see as much of a visible presence of a patrol car or an officer out there, especially if they have to remain close to their vehicle. But we do encourage all of our officers to get out on foot and, if possible, bring the bike with them to patrol out there. And we have taken the steps to train approximately 5 of our officers with bike patrol, which is actually a state class that they attended. And we just recently purchased a few extra bicycles to hopefully increase our presence on the trail.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the 8-hour-a-week officer, how do you actually catch someone? Let's say you've got someone going on the Super 73 at 25 miles an hour. I've had those whiz by me, and I'm not totally clear on what you do at that point.
Well, thankfully, we have standard bicycles, and we also have e-bicycles. We don't have any Super 73s in our fleet, and I'm not aware of any bicyclists that have fled from enforcement stops, but I would say our officer would attempt to apprehend that violator. However, they also have to weigh several different factors. If it's just too unsafe, if someone's doing 30 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour on an e-bike, going in and out of a group of people, then it's probably not going to be safe for our officer to do the same thing. But thankfully, that doesn't happen very often. But I believe our officers do have the tools to apprehend a violator. And there's a saying that you can't outrun a radio.
Yep.
I found my notes on this, which might be useful. Well, only class 1 and class 2 e-bikes are allowed on the trails in all these towns. That's true for Mill Valley and Tiburon. Class 2 is up to 20 miles per hour with throttle assist. Class 3 is over 20 miles, is throttle assist, but it can go over 20 miles per hour. So that would be like that type of bike, not allowed on the trails at all.
Yeah, the problem with these Super 73s is they're technically class 2. They're generally modified to go even faster.
Yeah.
And even at 20, it's not usually the safest kind of situation going on.
Questions? I think we're all Done on with the questions. Thanks for providing some detailed information, and hopefully that they'll continue to be safe out there. But we do want to open up to questions both here in chambers. I'm not seeing any. David, are there any questions from online?
I see none.
Okay. Well, then with that, I'd like to just close this and thank you again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your work.
All right. Onward. So the next agenda items are the informational items.
Correct.
Terrific. Let's start with mini parks. I think there's some presentations that were forwarded to you. You know that because I forwarded it to them. We can go in any order, but that's okay. We'll start with Zielinski Park. That's fine. You've got it up. Yeah, yeah. Which is number 5 for those scoring at home. This is informational item 5. We may go, I think that's okay if we go.
I can put anyone you'd like.
Yeah, well, but let's keep it in order, just so nobody gets bent out of shape. So the Tiburon Mini Parks is the first one. And I'll come over. Oh, thank you. If you want to jump to the next slide. So first, I just want to let people know that I was over at the Tiburon. I was over there on Friday throughout with the rain. And a lot of times people, and this was an interesting comment that came up, that people are like, well, what's wrong with any benches or anything? Well, actually, there are benches there. There's actually 3 benches. And I took a picture of 2 of them, the one on the left and the one on the right. And then that's my dog, Kiki, over there as well. I also tripped in a gopher hole. And then there's a table there. There's a 3rd bench is actually a snowboard that a woman with her 2 dogs was sitting on and just kind of hanging out. And I didn't feel it was right for me to take a picture of her. So just in case you're wondering why, if there's like, so I thought that was just a note there. If you want to jump to the next slide, David, and then I'll step over your shoulder too. So we've had a number of community meetings, both at Belvron and Cypress Hollow. We had way early, before we even had a subcommittee. I was over at Bel Air Park in September. And that was the only time that we've ever had, that anybody from Post has ever been at a meeting there. We have looked at a number, and we did in our last meeting request town council to hire a landscape planner. So hopefully they'll bring that up in their Wednesday meeting. And then Commissioner Burr and I developed a survey to send out to the community. And we've also identified a distance to do around each of the parks. So we're going to have these surveys. There's going to be it'll be the same survey, but it'll go out in 2 different ways. And I'd love some feedback on this actually from the commissioners. So one way is it'll be just an electronic link, and I'll show you that when I sit over David's shoulder to log into Zoom, to SurveyMonkey. And that will go out, and it will allow an individual to choose a park, and that he or she must choose that one park. That's what that's our priority park. And they also have to put in their address, but that address information we will not share with the public. We'll just hold on to the data. And the second way we'll do it also is we'll send out, and through a mailer, like similar to when there's doing like a planning commission item or design review, it'll be 500 feet from the park, but we'll make it unique to each park. And part of it is I'm just interested to see like what's the response difference between the 2, actually, of the mailer versus online. I think that'll just be helpful as a town. So I'm going to go log on to, if you want to just click on that link, David. If I don't hurt myself. So I don't know if you guys can, you can see it there. So here's the survey. I'm going to go into edit it and then, oops. Let me just show it to you guys. So basically, it's what the purpose is. The purpose of the main park surveys is solely to identify what the neighborhood community and frequent users of the parks believe are the essential additions needed immediately, long-term, or otherwise not needed. We want to consider a full range of options and therefore are not committing to any amenity just because it's listed on the below. So the first is people's address. So we just want to know where they live. That's very important to us because proximity matters to these residential small parks. I'm just going to put in 123 Main Street. This is again. And then the next is it asks you which of the 3 mini parks. Basically, it's committing the person who's doing this that they have to choose one. So I'm going to choose Bel Air and then go next. It then lists, and these are things that were either in, most of them were listed in the strategic plan, as well as a member of the community. She had a survey that she was having around. So I actually took some of her questions as well, because I thought it was just helpful to do. So, and they're basically listing it from unnecessary to essential, 1 through 5. So if somebody wanted to resod, I'm just gonna put neutral for all of these. So neutral, adding irrigation, plants and grasses, 2 to 3 benches, 1 to 3 hammocks, a table, shade structure for a table, a drinking fountain, adding additional native plants, low impact gravel path or decompressed granite for accessibility access, a handicap curb cutout for access to the north ends, and then improve signage for park rules, and then improve maintenance. That's always essential. And then also a blank for people who want to put something in. And actually, somebody today put a great recommendation, which is an owl box. And then you just hit next, and then it closes out the survey. So they're forced to be able to do one. So it's just a way to make sure that the residents within the town, regardless of where they live, can select one park, but they can only do one park. And that Commissioner Burr and I will look at those different pieces. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. I'm working with David and the town manager to identify a website of how we could push that out. We'll put it in Tip Talk, and then we'll also have a mailer go out to each of the different neighborhoods with a different URL on that. Does anybody have a question on what we just did? Nope.
Thank you.
Sure. So it'll go, as I mentioned, kind of the next action items will be, we'll send out the survey. We'll review the survey results in our next meeting, which will be in 2 months. So, all right. Next one up. Pickleball. I think, yep. Should have brought my glasses because I can't see that far. So I just, as a matter of course and kind of urgency of why we're doing all these things, 3 years ago, we passed unanimously a request to stripe Tether Park on one of the courts for pickleball. An estimate was made of $1,000, and we were going to study what the residents said. And then that went up to the town council, and town council decided to wait on that because of the park's strategic plan was coming out, so we delayed. So that was 3 years ago. As a result, since then, Mike and I have gone around, we've talked to the TPC on their thinking of a solution of potentially doing other things with their property. We've looked at a cost analysis of adding a tent structure, which Mike talked about in our last meeting, which was very expensive to cover potentially Tether Park. And then we've also gotten some data from the ranch regarding the number of tennis players that use Tether Park, and it's not very high. It's the same numbers that we saw 3 years ago. It was more demand was for pickleball at the pickleball court that's just over in Tom Price Park versus the tennis players over here. So there is capacity need for this. I'm just saying that probably the next recommendation in our next agenda item is actually to move forward and make a motion to town council to do something. And I'd turn to Mike to see if there's anything else you want to add on that. I think that everybody's, go ahead.
I guess one question would be, I think the presumption has been that outdoor pickleball is untenable because of potential noise issues and all the pushback that we've gotten. I haven't thought about actually doing the trial and then seeing if it actually does have an impact or not. But I guess that's something we could consider or think about. But I've always sort of assumed that it was not going to be tenable there, but I don't know. When you guys did the initial work 3 years ago, what was the thought process back then?
We hired a sound engineer who came and said that the noise was not what it needed. It was okay. It was not extreme. There's some distance that was, I mean, we went through all the things and in a vote of 4-0, we said, let's do this for a brief period of time. I think it was 6 months was what we can go find the motion. And I just remembered that because I went back and looked at an old issue of the ARC actually to recall on that. So I think that may be an agenda item that we come up with on our next meeting, if that makes sense. And again, it's just temporary, and we could maybe see what the costs are again on that. I mean, it's a small value compared to spending millions of, up to $1 million, right, for the tenting structure, Mike? Yeah, so. Okay. Any other questions on what we did for pickleball? Okay. Next is paddleboard and SUP. I don't have a presentation on that. It was really, I think, leave an open item that actually, Commissioner Judd, you had some. Do you have anything to add on that? Or David, I think you were talking about some stuff on 41 Main.
Yeah, 41 Main, we are, it's a future action item that we're going to have Commissioner Kafari on that subcommittee with Liz to work on it. And we will be pursuing and contacting those property owners there to see what we can do. I know Commissioner Kafari's already started working on that and contacting me on wanting information about the sites. And but stay tuned. We'll have more information on those. And we're also going to look at some of the other locations around town that were submitted, including the one there on San Rafael and Tiburon, that little cove area. We're still going to try to pursue talks with the city of Belvedere as well to see if we can get into that area there where the China Beach is, the China Basin near Main and Beach Road. So stay tuned for that.
I have a question on that, if I may ask the subcommittee or member of one right now, maybe, or I guess Burr's not here, but you'll be on it, Mike. Is for that area, you have actually in it as part of the, it's not on the agenda for Wednesday's meeting, are going through the design for that section. Does that work preclude looking at that cove section at Beach and Main Street?
This work in particular does. This one is temporary rehab underneath the bridge only. What we're going to do is we're going to send an application in to Caltrans. It's due by this November for a total redesign and replacement of that bridge in the near future. This right here, this work here will just kind of get put a Band-Aid on that bridge and make it still drivable and functional for the next, 5+ years until we get the whole bridge replaced. And in that design, we can look at something that can maybe accommodate a launch if we get some agreement with the city of Belvedere as well.
Okay, that's helpful. So, yes, there's on the town council meeting on Wednesday. It's escaping me the term that it's just it's not a vote. It's just on the agenda, and it's like all items will be passed on that. So, but that it has to be done basically.
That is correct. So we recently placed that bridge on the Caltrans bridge system. So they come out and do quarterly inspections on it for us. And because it's on their bridge system now, Caltrans will be providing a lot of grant money towards a replacement, anywhere between 88% to 100%, but typically 88%, and we come out with the other 12% for the replacement cost. And a replacement cost for a bridge of that size, you're looking at right around $1 million.
For everybody who didn't even know that was a bridge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where is the bridge exactly? Is it like near Woodlands, kind of there, or
No,
further in?
yeah. So as soon as you go on Beach, you make the right on Main Street.
Yeah.
It's the portion right where the open channel, where you see the bay, about 100 feet there. That used to be a drawbridge a long time ago when Ark Row was the bay.
So before Corinthian Island starts,
Yes.
basically.
Yes.
You're saying that's a little bridge to Corinthian Island, basically.
No, it's actually Main Street itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that stretch.
that
Yeah.
little stretch
Is a-
there.
is a
Before the first house on Bellevue starts, that stretch there is a bridge.
Got it.
Yeah, there's some nice drawings. Actually, David put together a nice on the consent items. That's what it's called. On the consent calendar for the town council meeting on Wednesday, there's some great background information.
Okay.
So I can just share that the sites, just to round up the sites that we were looking at, it's that Main and Beach Road right there where there's a bridge. There would have to be a ramp down, which is what you're saying can be looked at once Caltrans sort of does the project.
When we go into the full design for this, we can look at something like that. Now, whatever that cost is, the added cost would be on Tiburon's dime, but it can definitely be looked at and incorporated with our consultant.
Okay, thank you. So that's one, Main and Beach. The second is San Rafael and Tiburon Boulevard, where that little, what's the name of it? It's Bramble Beach, where that is. It is is it inside or outside of the 6-month closed zone?
It's right on the
closure?
cusp. I mean, it's right there on it.
It's like on the edge. If you look at a map, it's sort of debatable as to whether it qualifies as like closed for seasonal closure or not. So I guess we'd have to take a position on that, but probably good to play it safe and assume that would have to be closed for part of the year, a large part of the year. The other option is 41 Main Street. There's a public access sort of required at this tiny little area that is essentially adjacent to private property. And 41 Main Street is a private property building. So the owners of 41 Main would need to be contacted to see if they're even amenable to something like this. And then finally, there was the mention of a possible location basically right off Shoreline Park, right? Like if there was some sort of pier or dock, and maybe not even a dock, but some sort of like ramp structure right there at Shoreline. And you were saying that is a tough area because of the
tides.
tides. So does that make it impossible or like out of the question or still possible?
It's possible the consultant, it wasn't their favorite choice. And town council did not like that area a few years back when it was presented, just because of the safety issues of the tide and the currents out there.
So the two like most favorable locations would be the San Rafael and Tiburon, or I'm sorry, the 41 Main and the Main and Beach Road. 41 Main feasibility is a total question. But it would be favorable because it would be year round, pretty well protected, and paddlers could access Angel Island pretty easily from there. And likewise with Main and Beach.
It's got good parking too. There's spots there. There's a
Yeah.
parking lot right across the street. And
Yeah.
Same thing with Main and Beach. There's parking right there along the road. There's commercial parking, whereas like Bramble Beach, there's no parking there. It's
Yeah, and there's even the paid like city town lots
a
right
zone
next to CVS, which
Oh,
are
yeah,
a
yeah.
block from that,
from the
from
Main
that area.
from Main and Beach. Yeah. There's also two other locations. They're not in Tiburon, but possibly collaborating with the Belvedere, which is at San Rafael and East Shore, West Shore, West Shore. There's a kind of a drainage there with some riprap. I have gone in there personally. I parked my car on San Rafael and walked over. There's a bench there. People fish there, actually. And then there's one other location, but its access is difficult from public and for the public, which is off of beach behind the San Francisco Yacht Club. There's some stairs that go down to a public access beach, but to bring a device down there you'd be taking your own. It's risky. It's pretty steep stairs. So, and some people from town have checked that out too. But that's in Belvedere proper.
Mm.
So, okay.
Chair, we do have a hand raised. I believe it may be for this.
Okay. That's great. That's actually a good point. Thank you. We didn't do it. We kind of were breezing through. So why don't we'll take public comment for the first 3 informational items, which is mini parks, the
Pickleball.
pickleball. Thank you, and then the sup and paddleball and sup and paddle and kayak.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have, it's a phone number, the 415. Hello?
Hey,
Hi.
hey, this is Parker Pringle. I'm down here at Beach in Maine right now, just on my walk, listening to the meeting, and I was looking at the permit for the BCDC permit for this job here, and it talked about doing work on the riprap and stuff, and I was curious if David could tell us, like, if the riprap work, I'm not talking about the concrete, I'm talking about the boulders, if that is, that's on Belvedere land?
Is this for the, Parker, is this for the Tiburon bridge repair for council tomorrow or?
Yeah, this is at Main Street and Beach and the riprap down there. Is that on Belvedere land? Or
No,
is
that is
Tiburon
on,
land? I'm talking.
it's on Tiburon land. We're right there those are all on Tiburon land, those boulders right under that bridge. We're right up
Okay.
against it.
Well, all right. So my suggestion is that if you guys can get access via simply a set of stairs to that beach, that would be like an incredible win for water access of all sorts, including for kids, people looking for crabs, teenagers. They would love to hang out there. And for kayakers and paddleboarders. It's a very nice gravel sandy beach. Has good access at low tide. I walked out there in a pair of waders during the winter, and it does get pretty muddy a little further out, but it's a lot better than other spots, and there's great parking. So the other thing is on the stand-up, actually I was going to suggest to Commissioner Ghaffari that he might try looking into the law regarding public access at bridges in California. I think there's some provisions that guarantee public access at bridge locations. Whether or not that still applies to this bridge, I don't know. But if there's an issue with Belvedere owning part of that land, that might come into play. And also the other commissioner on the board. But I guess Ghaffari is an attorney, right? So,
Currently inactive
that's
at the bar, just for the record, but yeah.
Yes, that's Commissioner Judge would be the other commissioner on
But
that.
I'm happy for Ghaffari to get voluntold. Thank you.
okay.
But
That's
I
the end of
appreciate
my
it's a
comment.
great
Thank you very
suggestion,
much.
especially if we have any issue with access. That's a good area to look into. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I'm gonna go check out, I haven't checked that beach out enough. I've checked out many, if not most, but thanks for that tip in general.
Thank you.
We have Linda now.
Linda, you're on.
Hi, thank you so much for all meeting tonight and for your time. I'm just calling in about the Blackie's pasture area and just trying to get a better understanding of like what the steps forward look like from here. And sorry, I'm jumping onto the call a little bit late. I had my kids' sports tonight, but so I just hopped on now, but I was kind of hoping to just get a clearer picture of like what the next steps are. Like I'm part of the basketball, volleyball group. Yeah, so that's just kind of what I wanted to learn more about.
So Linda, if you don't mind, we're finishing up on our action items 1 through 5 right now. And we're going to finish up on the public swimming pool as well as Zelensky Park improvements. And then we have action items in which we will bring that up. So we'll get to that pretty quickly here.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Okay. So, and then at that time, if you want to provide your public comment, that would be great. If your schedule's flexible for, probably we'll be there in about 10 minutes, I hope. Okay. All right. Cool. Any other hands raised?
None.
No. All right. So we'll run to, next up is on Public Swimming Pool Subcommittee, which is Commissioner Burr and I right now, and then it will be a new member will be joining us on that. There we go. So obviously it's a big need for it within the park plan. We did outreach to the committee identifying the needs. Some people want lessons, also having access and equal access. So in particular, like at Starbury Rec, if they want to do drop-in, they can't just show up at the pool on a bright sunny day because they're not members of the Starbury Recreational District. And some folks who would like something closer to downtown because of obviously during certain periods of time, it's difficult to go from downtown all the way to Strawberry Rec or other places on the peninsula. We did have a call with Strawberry Rec's GM and their new board chair. And then we've also been having some correspondence with the executive director at the ranch, who's also looking at another idea, which is just this is specifically on lessons, and I can talk about that in the table that I created. Kind of next steps from March to May is like reviewing and present costs for different solutions. I think we're kind of at a stage like, and maybe to make recommendations. So if we want to run David to the table, that'd be great. Put it away, Chuck. So these were things that I just kind of put together regarding access. So the pool solution is the far left column, and then going across the top is for lessons or for leisure, ease of access, timing, like how could it be done now or it would take a long time? What's the pro and what's the con? Just really general pieces. And then handing this off to any new commissioners who will be on this. So the first one is like improve access to the TPC or other clubs. So they do provide there's lessons. It's also looking at other things such as like senior aquatic workouts and things like that. It's not really available for leisure or ease of access because they're not members. Timing is complicated because it's like, well, you'd have to go through and find a solution with many stakeholders. Actually, in the past, there used to be kind of water aerobics at the TPC, but because of a conditional change in their conditional use permit, that as well as water polo were taken off of their access. So that's why water polo is no longer at the TPC because of changes in the conditional use permit from basically noise that was being created by amplified activities. The next one down is private pool access at the Tiburon Lodge. There's some residents actually take advantage of that. There's no lessons there, but it's definitely available for leisure. The ease of access is variable depending on what's going on over there. It's available all year because it's a heated pool. It's available now, but it's limited to the number of people there, and it's also just there's an expense associated with it. It's a per time expense. Mobile swim lesson providers. So this is something actually that is early stages, but there is actually people who do that. They actually bring up a big truck that has one of those kind of like current pools in it. So you kind of work on swimming. I've done this before actually to help improve my swimming. But this is for all ages. It's only for lessons though. The cost and the timing is still TBD, but it can happen quickly. You just need to find a parking lot to put it in. So like, for example, working with the owners of the parking lot next to the left of the CVS, as you look at it from Tiburon Boulevard, I mean, that's a pretty empty parking lot most of the time, except for like the wine festival and some other big events. It's pretty empty. So it's just kind of making that happen. So that's something that some folks at the ranch we're looking at because it's within their kind of their purview. Next one is Strawberry Rec maybe making an expansion of their pool area. I had a rendering, but I didn't get permission to show it directly, so I didn't want to show it. But and we've actually had a couple of meetings with them on this. So yes, there's lessons. Yes, there's leisure. Yes, there's ease of access. The timing is like when to do that, but they just basically need fiscal support on this. They're looking to make basically up to maybe a $5 million improvement for the pool and for also adding like a whole nother building to it and expanding the pool. But it's one of the pros is they already do it. They already have all the equipment. They already have the labor. They know how to run a pool. The issue is that Tiburon's not part of the SRD, so we'd have to negotiate that point. But this is kind of a make versus buy scenario. The last two is obviously we can build a pool, which meets all of our needs, which is awesome. That's a big pro, right? It meets the needs, and it's owned by the town. But the big thing is there's no identified location, and it's a big cost, and it requires labor, and which is just something that's not our core competency, generally, finding that and running that. And then finally is do nothing, status quo. So it doesn't meet the needs of the town, of the residents. But I think that's something that we should at least raise with all of our things is like, well, what happens if we don't do anything? So any questions on that table? Yes, Liz.
Thanks so much for putting this together. It's great to have this in one place. I want to make sure I'm not confused on the first two, the TPC and Tiburon Lodge. Are you saying that there are like options for both of these facilities to open themselves up to public access? Or are you just saying if you want to pay for their membership, you can join kind of thing?
So the TPC is that, well, there's also, you can pay for the membership. There's a wait list and there's also an initiation fee, which is fairly steep. But they haven't seen a decrease in demand, so therefore they're keeping the price where it is. I mean, it's market forces, supply and demand. And so on that front, you can go there for lessons. It's a matter of, and pay for it as a non-member.
Okay.
You can go to the TPC to do that, but there's a limited amount to do that.
Right.
There could be conversations with the town trying to expand that more. So there's possibilities on that front. And then at the Tiburon Lodge, they have a pool in the back. And they do make it available for, it's kind of like a club version of it, but it's per person. There's different pricing for adults, kids, and infants. So, but you can go hang out there on a nice day, but there's a limited amount that's available, and it's really just for leisure. It's not for lessons. And there are a number of people in the community that actually go to other locations. So part of the status quo of doing nothing is you can drive and maybe see if there's lessons at Mill Valley Rec. You can go to the city and take classes at Le Petit Baleine or go to the JCC in the San Francisco. That's where my kid learned how to swim, but we lived in San Francisco. You can go up to Novato and go to the rec center up there, which is a pretty big pool. So there's lots of options, or there's people actually who it's an interesting marketplace in which people with their private pools who are certified to teach lessons actually open up their pools and teach lessons at their pools. So it's kind of like I don't, it's an Airbnb for private lessons for kids, for young kids, for like infants, right? So it's just focusing on that, which is it's just an important piece, right? We want, you know, having kids learn, not, having them be able to swim is an important thing, so.
There's also an Airbnb sort of app for just using someone's private pool. Like people with, yeah, they basically, you can get on this app and go hang out at a pool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
homeowners can
Yeah.
rent their pool.
Yeah.
to
Right,
people that want
right.
it, yeah.
I can see that happening, yeah. So there's lots of like market solutions.
Chuck,
out
I had a
there.
question about the demand that we saw from the people who wanted a pool in Tiburon. Was it more access to lessons for kids, or was it more just leisure? Or was it equally both?
I don't think the question in the plan stated that. David, do you recall?
I can't recall if it was pinpointing one or the other, but there were a lot of folks that did want it for leisure and a lot wanted it for swim lessons.
Yeah,
But there wasn't like a bifurcation. on
Right.
that. That was really some follow-up questions I had with people regarding a solution at Strawberry Rec, because people in our community do go up to the Strawberry Rec District, SRD, and say, hey, well, I'd love to do the lessons. They get second bite because they're not members of the recreational district.
right.
And they go there for lessons, and they sometimes, if you can time it, you can't do drop-in though. Like if there's like the 10 great sunny days that it's 80 degrees here, in the summertime, you can't just show up. You don't get that access because you're not a member of the. So if
Right.
addressing that, when I just kind of asking a number of people who I knew who wanted a pool, that are part of a number of different groups, I was like, well, if you had access, if you could just show up at Strawberry Rec whenever you wanted to for leisure, would that be great? And they're like, yes, I would. That would be beneficial. I would like that.
Because like your chart is interesting and made me sort of think that the solution for satisfying the need for lessons may be different for the solution for leisure. And so it's maybe not one size fits all. It could be a combination of two of those things up there. Like, for example, maybe access to the private pool at Tiburon Lodge is a good leisure solution, and just people just don't know about it because they can drop in on an 80-degree day. It sounds like at Tiburon Lodge. If they
Yep.
wanted to. And then for lessons, I think you're right. The whole labor component is the tough part of having instructors and the infrastructure to have classes and whatnot. But like, you know, if the issue with TPC is that they changed some ordinance that didn't allow, you know, lessons to happen, maybe we can explore increasing the allocation of, you know, people allowing to do lessons there. I don't know. I'm just thinking the solution might be actually piecing together two things instead
Yeah,
of
that's a
one.
good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good thought. Any other questions on this? Are there any comments from those here in chambers? I'm not seeing any. Are there any comments or questions online?
Yes, we do. It's Linda.
Hi. Yes, I have 4 kids and I've used all of the swimming options that you've discussed extensively. At the lodge, there's only 4 on like resortpass.com. I think it's like maybe $50 a person. So, you know, it could be a bit economically prohibitive for some people to spend that on swimming per day. And there's only 4 passes available per day. So I have 4 kids. My whole family couldn't actually use the lodge. And then also with Strawberry Rec compared to say TPC, Strawberry Rec has a lot of like lap time. They have like their summer camp time. Like you can't, even if you are a member, because we've been members there several summers, you still can't go when you want. Like they have a very strict schedule of like, you know, when it's open swim, when it's lap lanes only and things like that. So love that you guys are hopefully gonna, you know, work with Strawberry or whatever you do to improve the pool options because it is a 5 to 6 year wait list at TPC right now, for those who can afford it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate that you're on. Any other
None.
Okay, terrific. And then we'll move to the last quickly, the Zielinski Park. And then we'll get into the action items. So for Zielinski Park, we created the subcommittee with Commissioner Burr and myself in our last meeting. And so we started having just basic conversations with community members, those who are advocates for play areas that have increased accessibility for all people and all kids. And then we've also been touching base with town staff regarding getting drawings and understanding where property lines are for both the property and the parking lot to the south of Town Hall, as well as where the area for Zielinski Park goes, where the library is, and also where the wetland has been identified in Railroad Marsh, and then also looking for other properties that are kind of to the southeast as you head toward the apartments and everything over on that area as well. So we'll continue to spend some time on that. We did receive some parcel map and some information, but not exactly everything that we needed. There was some environmental impact statement work that was done with the construction of the library. So we're hoping to get more information on that, and also just continue to see like what is the minimum area needed for just a small play area that would be back there, that again would be totally accessible, that would tie in with a kind of civic park area. So any other questions, comments on that? Nope. Any questions or comments from in here in Town Hall? Nope. Any online?
None.
None. Terrific. All right. Thank you. Well, we will close the informational items and move to action items. David? The first action item is that we have a new post commissioner, and two of the subcommittees were backfilled temporarily to keep things moving forward when Angela McNary stepped down. So those are both for the paddleboard and SUP launch, as well as the public swimming pool subcommittee. So with that, I think I just need to make a motion to put you on those, Mike, and have me drop off one and have, I think, Tim's on the other one, right? So I'd like to make a motion, or do you?
I'll second.
All right. So the motion is
Sorry.
is for Commissioner Ghaffari to replace Commissioner Burr on the paddleboard and SUP launch subcommittee, and me, Chuck Hornbrook, on the public swimming pool subcommittee that were created in our September 16th, 2024 post commission meeting.
I second.
Terrific. David, take a roll, please.
Chair Holmbrook,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moon,
Yes.
Commissioner Judge,
Yes.
Commissioner Ghaffari.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Woohoo. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. The next action item is number 2,
Mhm.
which, oh,
Oh,
no, we didn't. Is there any public comment on Mike Ghaffari joining? Sorry, this was much more kind of, I appreciate you saying that, Francisco. Anybody online?
none
That
online.
was my oversight. Appreciate that. The next action item, number 2, is a possible update to the Tiburon Municipal Title 6, Chapter 23, Article 2, verse 23 through 25. If I read that right. Do you have a staff report?
Yes, Chair, Commissioner. So right now, the old rail trail, the speed limit along the whole length of it is 15 miles per hour and 8 miles per hour if pedestrians are present. Pedestrians are present periodically. I mean, they're there all the time. So technically, the speed majority of the time should be 8 miles per hour. So this action here, based on what you heard from Captain Yee earlier with the speed and safety on the old rail trail, is if the commission chooses to recommend the entire length of the old rail trail be reduced from 15 miles per hour to 10, also matching some of our nearby communities on what they're doing in Mill Valley on the MUP. With that being said, if the commission chooses to make those recommendations, then this would be taken to town council for consideration.
Does anybody have any questions on this item before I open it up to any comments?
I guess I'm just wondering, is it real, we don't have enforcement even at the higher speed limits very much right now. So I'm just wondering, you made a good earlier point that is it confusing for enforcement to have the 15 and the 8, the two different scenarios? And at the same time, I just want to be realistic about how, the bikers that go through there, what their average speed is and like what we're trying to solve. So
Good question. Any other questions before we turn it over? We'll have more discussion on this, Mike. This kind of procedural is there's
Sure.
first question.
yeah.
And then
That was
then
kind of a
comments. That's okay.
half question,
All
half
right,
discussion tee up.
Any of them are.
Yeah.
My question was, did this change or this recommendation come from Tiburon Police or like where is this
I
coming
added
from?
it to the agenda.
Okay.
And I added it to the agenda because the TPD was presenting
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed to be timely versus if TPD presented something that was very explicit that said like, yes, you should lower it or something more, but it was not, they didn't say that. So I added the agenda item because I didn't want the captain to say something and for us to go like, gosh, I wish we had an action item for that.
I
So
see.
it was just being kind of working on that.
Mm-hmm.
A little on the speed limit on the municipal trail that's over in Mill Valley is actually in the county of Marin. So actually the supervisors voted, gosh, 6-7 years ago to lower it to 10 miles per hour in that one section. And they also, I don't know if the Mill Valley, I think, spent the money on the roundabout that's right there by the middle school. And that trail is 4.5 feet wider than our trail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a less dense area than ours. So, I mean, that's a little bit why I also added it for 10 miles per hour. Again, at 2 in the morning, if you're, or 6 a.m. on a summer day, okay, I get it that you're going to be going pretty fast, but we've all been down there when it's, and this is again, I guess I'm saying why I put it on the agenda is I've been down there many times. There's speed limit signs right by the BTC and it's always going above 15 all the time. And there's plenty of people present.
Mhm.
So to me, the 15 to 8 seemed really difficult to enforce. So,
And this is specifically for electric bikes?
no, to all bicycles.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm on my 20 speed Cervelo, so I can be an age grouper for some triathlon.
Okay, because it said this is regarding an EMD ordinance. That's where I got confused. So this would be for all bikes, regardless if it was electric.
Or scooters, or, because we made an update to the code that said like I forget the word, any mobility device and including e-mobility devices.
Mhm.
So any, thing.
Okay.
Any device, one wheel, the skateboards, scooters,
Okay.
bicycles.
We'll in on questions and I'll go see if there's any comments. Is there any comments here in chambers? I'm not seeing any. Any comments online?
None online.
Okay, we'll close public comments. So I don't want to, which has been said before to us when we've passed something else, that town council this is a solution looking for a problem. There hasn't been a problem on Old Rail Trail yet. That's my only concern. And with additional bicyclists that are here riding more so than when I was doing it 20 years ago, I have a concern that we're just waiting for something to happen. And if somebody wants to go faster than 10 miles per hour, they can ride on Tiburon Boulevard. It's right there. And as we all know as cyclists, they do that. So for the solution on the municipal trail, that comes from Sausalito to Mill Valley, there's actually a sign that says, if you really want to go fast, exit here and go over to Miller, that's right in front of Tam High, and take Miller. Because if you're doing the Tiburon, if you're trying to get through, again, as a cyclist, to get over to do other rides up in Marin or West Marin or do the Paradise Loop, you're going to go over Camino Alto anyways on your bicycle, or you're going to reverse it. So you're going to go on Miller to Camino Alto over. So they put signage to say, like, if you really wanted to hammer it, go over here. So that's why I wanted to put this on here. But if you all are like, this is again a solution looking for a problem at this time, because this does, for us to pass this, town council would then say, like, yes, we see the wisdom of those ways, or they're like, no, we don't want to. It's up to them, or whatever they may conclude. So
So it would also eliminate the 8 miles per hour around pedestrians. It would just be 10.
we could eliminate the 8 as well and just use 10. That's what it is over in Mill Valley. It just says 10. It's pretty clear. I mean, and anecdotally, the signs aren't very big. If you're walking or cycling, it says 15 very in large letters, and it says 8 in really a smaller font. Which I'm not. It's a discussion with Public Works, I suppose, but it's really, cyclists don't see that. And I literally was like, I was on by the settling ponds, and a guy just zipped by me really fast, and I happened to catch up to him at the 76, and I was like, you're kind of going fast. I was on my bike, and of course, being, the 50-year-old dude who's like saying, hey, dude, you're going a little fast. He goes, I think I was going 8. I mean, that's what he said to me. I'm like, okay. So
I'd be in favor of it. I mean, if right now it's 8 around people and people are always around. I don't see any problem with making it 10 on Old Rail Trail. People shouldn't be speeding. There's a ton of little kids. There's elderly people. Little kids don't look out for bikes. They change directions really fast. A lot of people on that trail change directions really fast because they're not aware of it. And it's a short stretch in the scheme of a ride. So for a short stretch, if you have to slow down, I don't think that's a problem. I just saw on Nextdoor some little 4 or 5-year-old boy was hit by a cyclist, launched into the air, broke his leg, was in a cast. It was really sad to see, really sad to see. So it wasn't in Tiburon. It was in one of the nearby areas. I can't remember where. Maybe you remember. Yeah, it was San Rafael, and it feels like really unnecessary. Us cyclists, and I'm a cyclist, like we can slow down for a little stretch of our ride, and just to make sure that people don't end up in the hospital. I think it's okay. That's my view.
So are you recommending that we keep it uniform 10? So we
10 is simpler, and for 2 miles an hour, I don't think it like mitigates risk that much. And so simplicity is probably easier in that stretch. So that's what I would recommend.
I'm just trying to think through who would be the people opposed to this. Is there a big contingency of like?
Probably like the cyclist, like maybe the harder core cyclists.
I'm just not as familiar with that world. Like, is there a time at 7 to 8 a.m. they all come out where there's no pedestrians and they like zipping at 15 or?
I mean, I would also, I guess, I would also point to like, what's the if there was really no one on the trail and they were out and they were moving fast, like what's the feasibility they would get cited anyway?
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the right logic.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying is, I don't know that the speed limit's being followed much anyway now, so people just kind of, it seems to me that people just go whatever speed they feel like. So the real thing we need is probably enforcement, or to figure out some kind of other solution if we are having kind of high-speed incidents. I think that e-bikes, there's 2 groups where that's exacerbated. It's the e-bike, especially the unapproved, like the Super 73s, and then there are a lot of people who don't live nearby, right, who are maybe not thinking of it as this is like a little kid walking path. There's people who come from either San Francisco or wherever, who just think of this as a high-speed bike path. So messaging to that group is important, and maybe people, if you just have a sign, they'll try to comply. You probably also need some enforcement, just so people understand that, okay. But yeah, I think there's a group, there's the fast road riders who do come in, and they may or may not live in Tiburon, just statistically, probably most don't, right? They're doing a much longer ride, to Liz's point, and that this is one leg of the journey. And then you do have probably a lot of local students on e-bikes of varying safety levels.
And we could suggest to Tiburon Police that enforcement take place in high traffic times and hours. It's like, there's no point in them enforcing when the trail's empty.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they would like to go out there on a Saturday or a Sunday, when there are people out there, that'd be great.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. I mean, it seems like that's gonna help with the safety issue more than whether we put 10 or 15, honestly. But that doesn't mean that it's not a bad idea to lower it, just to be safer.
So in terms of consistency, the captain mentioned what other municipalities are doing. So again, the one section that I'm very aware of is that there is, I don't know if you have that, David. I could. Oh. Let's see.
What are you looking for again?
It was actually part of the municipal use speed limit survey that was put out in 2014 by the Mill Valley Public Works, and they did a research of different areas. So, and they looked at just different paths, all in California. So the Newport Balboa bike path, which is in Newport Beach, which is a 4.5-mile multi-use bike path along a river and beach, is 8 miles per hour. Highly congested path that parallels the beachfront. Hermosa Beach, the Strand. So if anybody who's down in SoCal, it's 8 miles per hour. And that's a pretty wide, that has clearly defined like walkers and riders there's little signs on there. And then there's one up in Mission Bay Bike Path in San Diego. So around there is it's a 12-mile multi-use path along Mission Bay. That's 8 miles per hour. That's the speed limit. So there's a lot of, and then the Renton Cedar Path, which is in the city of Renton, which I'm not sure what that is. And this is, I mean, I can send this, David, it's on I think I copied you on that note. I can send it to you. Sure. So they went through and said, like, what should we be doing this? And basically the recommendation was, and I think this is before they found out that the town, that Mill Valley didn't control the speed limit there, but said Mill Valley Department of Public Works have observed conditions along the Sausalito Mill Valley use pathway between Sycamore Avenue, the entrances, the Bayfront, and dog run parks. The parks of the pathway include soccer fields, jogging, walking, dog walking paths, and picnic areas. Sounds like ours. High volumes of pedestrians cross traffic occur in this area. Staff recommends the reduction of the maximum speed limit from 15 miles an hour to 10 miles per hour, beginning at the point 50 feet north of the intersection of Sycamore Avenue, which is actually, there's an elder care facility there, and extending to 1,800 feet southerly to a point south of Dog Run Park. And I think it continued all the way actually to Blythedale. So that's what their recommendation was. So, and I can forward this to everybody here right now.
So Chuck, that sounds like the closest comp to our bike path in the surrounding area.
Yes, I would say so. And so, yeah, and I probably should have, so there's a ride that's very popular in San Francisco called the Paradise Loop, in which you start at someplace in Crissy Field, you park your car, and you come across the bridge, you come down through Sausalito, you go on the multi-use path from Sausalito to Mill Valley. You can cut off onto Miller to Camino Alto to Tamalpais across the Corte Madera, over to Paradise, up Paradise Loop, past the Mill Valley, past MCDS, and then all on the backside of Paradise, through the city of Tiburon, stopping and spending some good money here. And then continuing on through, kind of they go on San Rafael Ave, if you want to make sure you get some miles in, San Rafael Avenue, then reconnecting up with the bike path at San Rafael and Tiburon Boulevard. And then you go out the bike path up, why can I think, Greenwood Beach Road, up to Greenwood Beach Road, to the 76, back on Blythedale, across on Blythedale, back to the path. And that's about 20-ish miles. So it was a light ride for the day. So.
And you don't win any awards in cycling for being the best at the Paradise Loop.
No.
You win it for being the best at Mount Tam, so.
Very true. So, I mean, so Mike, to your point, would there be people who would be bummed? Yes, it would be those cyclists. There'll be some families and parents here who are like, that'll mean our kid can't ride to school faster. Right? But it's how long is Old Rail Trail? 3 miles? 3 miles. So that saves you
Yeah, we can do the math.
not much. 5 miles per hour. I'm gonna say like 7 minutes, maybe the most. I mean, and there's kids and family that are commuting. Like you can see them at Trestle Glen doing the riding from there to Reed. Those kids aren't they're not going. You're not having your kid go more than 10 miles an hour if he or she's 8. I don't know if they can go that fast, but let me I keep on. So yeah, David, maybe adding this and putting available to the agenda would be great. Thanks. So we can discuss it more. We can table this for another meeting, but we should probably move forward. It's up to you all. Doesn't matter.
Well, another choice you have is if you want to see what Captain Yi and the chief come as they're discussing, trying to match all of our speed limits and be consistent. We come back after their recommendation, come back to post with what TPD is recommending. That's another option as well if you want to think about that.
Didn't we kind of ask that just today? Didn't we ask, do you see any issues? And he said, we don't, you can change did he say you can change the speed, but I can't remember what he exactly.
It's enforcement.
Yeah, it comes to enforcement, so. And he said, we'll do whatever you set, right? So to me, that sort of implied they might not have a recommendation. They might say just whatever.
Well, the one thing he did say that he wanted to be consistent with the surrounding area.
Okay, so that's sort of a recommendation.
So I don't know if we have enough data with this one comp in Mill Valley, if we wanted to do more kind of in Southern Marin. But that could be something we could look into further if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's fine. I just, because TPD was here, I just wanted a matter of expediency. So why don't we just, we'll make no action on this action item and then we'll follow up. David, should we ask TPD to give us a recommendation and we can also go and do our own research, or I don't want to, do we create a subcommittee on speed?
You know what I'll do is I'll have a discussion with the chief tomorrow.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I will just send an email out to the whole commission on what the chief would like us to do, moving forward.
Okay. I mean, is there a way for us to, within the difference, I mean, within the other jurisdictions, just to ask, like, what is your normal speed limit for your bike paths? I mean, there's all these other, there's a bike path that goes through Corte Madera to Redwood High School that's right there at the DMV, right? There's that bike path.
Right, Magnolia too as well. I know the chief is in talks with the chiefs from Central Marin Authority
Okay.
and
Oh, yeah,
Mill
that's-
Valley.
Yeah, Central Marin would be the people to talk to. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess if you don't mind following up on that, and then we'll make this as an action item in our May meeting.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Onward.
Questions?
No, I think we already closed.
Oh, we
public
did?
comment.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So onward is the last action item, which is the Blackie's Pasture, RBSD ponds in South and Knoll, Linear Park. And whether or not we want to have an action item to ask town as a recommendation for the town council to consider any future meetings to prioritize locations and anything else along the Linear Park. And I guess within this, you guys may want to just provide an update of also kind of your outreach, because you guys have done a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah. Do you want to give the overview?
Happy for you to, if you care to. I can
Uh,
add.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's too much to add, but we have been having some good meetings with key stakeholders in the surrounding areas around Lineal Park, and also including the Parents for Park group as well. And we've gotten some good feedback. I think our next step here is to really have a community meeting open to all, where we can discuss the ideas that we've put together to date, get feedback from the community on some of their ideas, and report back to Post with kind of a vision or kind of a plan of how we see Lineal Park improvements going forward. The timing of that meeting, we had been waiting for town council to give us a little bit more feedback on next steps on what we're doing here, to just not get over our skis. So we're hoping to get some guidance from town council. And I think as part of this meeting, the idea is that maybe we could even be encouraging to town council as part of a resolution to actually ask them to help us prioritize an area within Lineal Park that we can spend some time on. There's certain areas, if you think about big blocks, there's the area by Greenwood Beach, there's the area Blackie's Pastures itself, and there's the area where the picnic tables are, where we think could be a nice nature-based playground area. There's the ponds, and then there's the south of the Knoll playground area. So those are the sort of the major areas within Lineal Park. I would say, I don't think Liz and I have necessarily discussed this per se, but if there was one area that I'd like to see prioritized, it would be the ponds area. I think that has the most potential, and I think we have a lot of energy around that area to make improvements there, and we have some good engagement from a lot of different constituencies. So my recommendation, if we were to highlight a specific area for town to consider to prioritize, it would be that area.
I agree. And there've been some residents in Tiburon who have put together some really great suggestions, including some great like plan drawings, like rough sort of sketches, I guess you could say, or rough designs for what could fit in the space of the sanitation ponds. And there's actually a lot that can fit in the space. The way they sketched it out is you could see a sort of open use, what is that called? Like a flexible play court that could be a basketball court of sorts. You could also fit a beach volleyball court in that area. You could fit a small grassy knoll area, and you could fit like a section of sort of seating, covered or semi-covered, shaded seating of some sort, or not shaded seating. But that's a lot that can fit in that area. And so that could satisfy a lot of the community. requests and demands for more for more recreation.
Yeah. So Chuck, I don't know if I didn't see it on the action item, but for many parks in a prior meeting, did you guys ask for town council for some budget to get a design professional to do some preliminary designs?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Could we do a similar kind of request for potentially the ponds area, that we get some budget to get some preliminary designs put together for that area?
I think so. I think that's within this
Yeah.
action item because it's asking for prioritization to be in that one specific area and
Right.
being pretty specific on what that would be. I
Yeah.
think that's fine. I think that's good. Mike, do you have any questions for these guys on what they were working on before I open it up to public comment?
Let's open it up to public comment.
Okay. Is there anybody who would like some public comment? I see one person here in Chambers.
Thank you for being patient.
who wants to come up and speak. Hello, please state your name and where you live. It don't have to be specific street, but
Microphone's maybe not on. It'll help you.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I'm Jenna McKnight. I live in Tiburon. Thanks for all of the great work you guys are doing. It's exciting to see some of the ideas in the master plan starting to inch forward. I just wanted to say that I support the proposal for the sanitation pond site that involves putting in a basketball court and sand volleyball in a shaded seating area. There's a proposal that's been going around. It's been created by some parents. I'm sure you all are familiar with it. And I think it's super exciting. And it's amazing to see what would fit in that space. And I think those kind of amenities would be a very beneficial addition to Lineal Park and to Tiburon. I think there are amenities that are really needed. So I just want to express my support for that proposal and also just inquire, how do parents keep participating and weighing in and advancing that idea?
Thank you for your comment. I think one of the things that and David would maybe should have teed it up was the website and changes and pieces, just to answer Jenna's question, Ms. McKnight's question.
So what we're going to do is the website that we have, the tiburonparks.com. We still own, the town owns that site and has paid for it. I think for we were paid through August or September of this year. So we'll continue updating that. We're in the process of uploading the final master plan on there, and then a lot of information that the subcommittees are gathering. We're going to make like a new page on there and upload content and advertise public meetings, the survey. So we're working on that on our end to transition it from our consultant to us so that we can be the webmasters and monitor that site.
That's great. Well, there'll be an opportunity to send in public comments through that website, or should people continue to just send them to post and to the town council?
I would say public comments, send them all to me directly. I'm kind of the gatekeeper. This way I have them all, I save them, and then I forward them to the proper commissioners or council members.
Okay.
Yeah, so still to town council, I think would be for this decision on this site. I would continue to send notes to town council and come to council meetings. And we can see on that website, there was a way to add comments on the website, and we can see if we can maybe pivot that just to save your email.
Right. And right now that the comment side on that has changed. I'm getting a lot of requests from contractors wanting to build stuff. So we're gonna I get at least 3 or 4 a week from outfits all over the country that I've heard that we've finalized our parks master plan, and now they want to provide their services for the town. So we'll get that fixed.
We're also still planning on doing the community meeting. We will host that and hold that. We are hoping to get from town council this Wednesday, as Mike said, some direction on what they would prioritize. And if we can get from them, which I hope we can, that they will prioritize these ponds. And maybe we can even get from them a motion to hire a contractor to begin drafting up designs. But if that can be a priority, then we will move forward in scheduling the town meeting, or the community meeting rather. We'll publicize it, we'll get it out. It'll be here in town hall, and it'll be like an open forum for discussion and ideas and input. So that's, I think, would be the next steps.
If the town council doesn't make it a priority item, then does it, you mentioned that you're waiting to hear what they recommend is.
I think if they don't, I would say just as a trained advocate myself, like I think I would want to regroup and to see what I could do to make it a priority, or to encourage them, urge them, push them, pressure them to make it a priority. But let's hope they come out. And what I would love from them is a little bit more direction on what types of proposals they'd be open to taking up. Because I think we've all spent a lot of time in it, and your group especially. We just don't want to waste people's time at this point. But I don't think it is a waste of time. I think we're going to, I continue to say this feels like the lowest hanging fruit, and we should get some things done. What we can get done in this site, whether we can get all those things that I mentioned that fit in the space, I don't know, but I think it's worth pushing on.
Great, thank
agree.
you. Thanks.
Are there any other comments online?
Yes, we do. Linda?
Hi, Linda, thanks for your patience.
Hi, my name is Harrison and I am 8 years old. So I'm getting a little bit too old for the playground at Blackie's, and I'm hoping for the basketball court at Blackie's.
Terrific. Thank you, Harrison.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm 10, so I'm getting to the age where you can ride your bike to certain places. And I would like a place where I can be athletic or look forward to stopping by when I bike to Blackie's.
Yes. So thank you so much, you guys, for all of your time and everything. I'm Linda. And I just wanted to, there's so much support behind this movement. I'm brand new to all of this stuff. I don't know a lot about the town inner workings, but just wanted to see what I could do to help support this plan moving forward, and so that we could get these spaces for residents to enjoy.
Thank you, Harrison and Hannah. Good job. Well done. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Other comments?
Yes, we do. I believe it's Parker.
Parker?
Hi there, this is Parker. About, let's see here, the sanitary pond. I'm curious, is there any hope for getting more parts of that parcel there from the sanitary district, and how would that play into developing it? Curious if Moon or Judge spoke with the sanitary district GM and if it offered any information on that. And then sort of a report on the lineal park with respect to Greenwood Beach. I sent an email to the town council asking them to review that trail that the BCDC is going to impose on the town as a permit condition. And I asked them to agendize it so it could be looked at by the public and them. They could make suggestions on it, which was what Roger Leventhal advised or suggested that you guys do in December. I sent that email in January, and then Leventhal responded to that email saying the trail was a non-issue. And then Sunday, 2 weeks ago, I met Peter Bay, who's the other designer. He was out there digging a hole in the middle of the delta down there at Blackie's pasture in front of Greenwood Beach. And this guy was fascinating to talk to, and a really cool guy. He had a lot of bad things to say about this trail condition. And my suggestion is that Moon and Judge look into this, and either it's going to be too late to report back, I think, in 2 months. It's supposed to go to bid in a matter of weeks, but at a minimum, try to get in touch with either, probably the BCDC, I would suggest, which is Skylar Olson, and find out about that. And maybe you could find out about that tomorrow if you get in touch with them. You can call them. The other thing was at the last post-meeting, two members of the public, including Ms. McKnight, had questions about the gravel excavation down there at Greenwood Beach. And David reported that the dredging or mining of gravel down there was a rumor that had been dispelled to the town council. And, well, Peter Bay reported that it's very much still going to happen. And it's going to be more of a mining situation. The precise term is borrowing. But they are going to still take that material. And I think it would be nice to hear a report maybe from David on that, maybe clarifying that. Having said that, I'm sort of against the excavation stuff, but when I talk to Bay, I mean, I kind of feel less concerned about it. But I still think it's an issue that merits public review. And that's my comment. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you. Are there other public comments?
None.
What
Okay.
was the first
So
question?
we'll end public comment on that at that point. First,
His first question, I didn't capture it, but it was for me and
there's a
Mike.
Bay Area, the BCDC has a trail as well as excavation of materials. I'm not sure if we want to address a public comment directly on it, but I think David is, I would assume that David and the town staff is up to speed on these pieces versus individual who happens to be out there working.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
We are actually have been in talks. We had a meeting with BCDC last week and answered some of the final questions they had in regards to the shoreline and access. And we have pretty much resolved their question, what their issue was. Again, as Parker brought up, the delta throughout the years, it changes. You know, the sediment gets moved to the north, gets moved to the south. So all we're doing in there is massaging the native soil, the native, and Parker had it right, We're borrowing from one area, moving to another. We're not dredging and removing material from that zone. So in order to do that, we have to get a permit from the state because they own the mineral rights there. So we are actually now working with that. This project is still ongoing. We probably won't get that permit until this coming August because they only meet, the next time they meet, it will be in August. And so we've got all the paperwork in to the state. And Peter Bay did mention that he had a good conversation with a member of the public, Parker, and kind of let him know what we're doing out there. And he did seem satisfied, as he mentioned here on this call. But moving forward with BCDC, I believe we will get our permit here in the next couple of weeks approved from them.
Okay, great. Thanks, David. Lots of moving parts, lots of people engaged on things. So thanks you guys also for your update on all those pieces. Any other discussions on this action item? I do like the suggestion, Mike, that you made during the point, Michael, that you made during the regarding making a recommendation that the town engage with a landscape planner specifically for amenities and improvements at the RBSD ponds as a priority. Does that make sense for you? I mean, I'd like to maybe see if we can move forward on a motion on that. Would that be helpful? Mike, do you have any questions on that, or just, I mean, in essence, part of making these motions will then signal to town council to say like, hey, this is important. We'd like you to help move forward on this. Similar to what we did with the paddleboard and kayak and why we
Sure.
did it with the other things. Now, whether or not they want to pick it up or not, I hope they do.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of public interest in developing that spot, so I'm certainly supportive of whatever you guys think is best.
So should we make a motion on that?
So, and Chuck, it would be a motion to recommend that town council prioritize the sanitation ponds and sort of agree to contract a firm to do the design work.
And that is part of that prioritization to go out and find a landscape designer to help with building amenities, similar to what, period. Yeah.
And would that be for us and town management to interact with that design consultant, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the design consultant will come and say like, well, gee, what ideas do you guys have? And I think I can't remember the exact motion that we passed for the mini parks, but we basically said for the mini parks, we want to hire a design planner that would then work with Post and the community on getting feedback for what amenities we wanted to put in there. And that part of the reason for the mini parks was like town staff, and which is a very small and kind of easier kind of conceptual piece to do, much easier. But it's like, well, gee, where do you want the drinking fountain? If you want to put a drinking fountain here, where do you want to put it? Where do you want to put these trees? And town staff is like, we're good at making sure these execute and they happen, but we don't have the aesthetics. So it's similar to the bicycle repair pumping area that we did. Does that make sense?
Okay. So, so what the motion would be recommending for town council to consider at a future meeting to prioritize the ponds, RBSD ponds, and hire a landscape designer to work in coordination with Post and town staff to focus on the future development for the approved Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Yes, I'd second that.
Okay.
That was perfect. Yeah. Chair Holbrook,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moon,
Yes.
Commissioner Judge,
Yes.
Commissioner Kafari.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Great, thank you. I think that was just,
Alright.
it's good to signal and also to the community that we want to move these things forward and keep them moving forward. So with that, at 7:52, my clock is fast or something, or it's slow. Yeah, I will adjourn this meeting of the Parks, Open Space and Trails Commission. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Great, thanks.